Well, good morning. It's wonderful to be at Camp Blanding. I'm happy to be joined by Dane Eagle, our DEO Secretary, Jamal Sowell, our CEO of Enterprise Florida. We also have Colonel Gray Johnson, Chief of Staff for the Florida National Guard. We have Stan Bozen, who's on the Florida Defense Support Task Force, retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. Harrison Conyers, who is the Military Affairs and Veterans Department Operations Manager for the City of Jacksonville. We have Representative Sam Garrison, Representative Bobby Payne, Senator Jen Bradley. We've got Scotty Taylor, former Fire Rescue City of Gainesville, Howard Wanamaker, County Manager for Clay County, Lauren Mock, Fire Chief and Deputy County Manager for Clay County. We've got Renninger and Condon, Commissioners Renninger and Condon from the Clay County Commission, and of course we've got a whole bunch of great Florida National Guardsmen here, and we're happy that they're here. We're happy we could make this announcement here at Camp Blanding. We pride ourselves in Florida on being a very military and veteran-friendly state. We have a huge veteran population, people that serve in the military, particularly in the Navy, since we have so many naval installations. Anytime they get stationed at one of our duty stations here in Florida, they tend to establish that Florida residency, and they don't let it go. They keep it knowing that at a minimum they'll save on taxes throughout their career, but then almost always wanting to come back and live in Florida at some point after their military service is culminated. So we're proud of that. We're proud of all the people that make our communities better, who have military experience, not just those who are fully retired, but even those who served for a tour or two. We also are proud, and we are here actually in Northeast Florida last week to celebrate or to commemorate the service of folks who have fought in war since September 11th. We had the 20th anniversary on Saturday. It was a really sad day to look back and look at the lives lost, but it also required us to reflect on the sacrifices that have been made by so many folks. Certainly there that day at September 11th, all the first responders that rushed into the World Trade Center, also the passengers on United Flight 93 who thwarted an attack most likely on Washington, D.C., knowing that they were bringing the plane down and ensuring their own demise. But then all the people that have worn the uniform in the time since September 11th, no draft, very small number of folks who've stepped up. Many of them have done multiple combat deployments, and they've carried a lot of load for this country. So we certainly thank them. It's one of the reasons why we're very supportive of making sure veterans have access to things like treatment for post-traumatic stress. And we've supported a lot of different initiatives, not just from the state of Florida, but the private sector has been very good, and military charities, and so we want to keep doing that as well. We are also very proud of the active duty component of the installations that we have. Of course, here at Camp Blanding is the heartbeat of the Florida National Guard, which is a really amazing organization. I mean, they do a whole host of different things, and I know we have guys coming back from Louisiana who responded, helped Louisiana respond to that hurricane. Of course, anytime we have storms here in the state of Florida, the Guard is ready to go, and they're very, very helpful. The Guard has done an enormous amount of stuff since COVID started. We sent them very early on to help protect nursing homes, help to test the elderly residents. They played a huge role in vaccine distribution, and anytime we need help, they're there for that. So very appreciated, I think, organization in Florida, but particularly for all the different things that they've done. And then, of course, we've got some great military installations throughout our state. Here in Northeast Florida, we've got fantastic installations. You look at Northwest Florida, you look at the Tampa Bay area, looking all the way down to the Keys with the NAS down there. So we're proud of that. We're proud that a lot of active duty members are here working in Florida, and we believe having a strong active duty component is not only something we're proud of just from a patriotic perspective, but it's also good for our communities. I mean, when you have strong bases, that has a really positive economic impact in the surrounding areas. And so in Florida, we really want to help support that. We want to make sure that folks are, that these communities are really able to benefit, and that we can work in concert when appropriate with the military services to make sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure in place so that they have great footprint here for themselves, but then we also can capitalize on that and help benefit our community. So today, I'm happy to announce that the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity and Enterprise Florida are awarding $3.4 million for military communities and bases across the state through the Defense Infrastructure Grant Program, the Defense Reinvestment Grant Program, and the Florida Defense Support Task Force Grant Program. Most of that money will be in Northeast Florida and Northwest Florida, where we have such heavy installations presence. For Northeast Florida, we're doing almost $1 million for Clay County to provide a buffer area around Camp Blanding, to maintain facilities at Camp Blanding, and to help develop a strategic sites inventory for future development. Nearly $500,000 to the city of Jacksonville to jointly acquire restrictive use easements of property in the military influence zone at Naval Air Station Jacksonville, and almost $100,000 to the city of Jacksonville to continue efforts to bring shipbuilding and maintenance plans to Naval Station Mayport and work towards the goal of hosting a nuclear aircraft carrier in the Jacksonville region once again. Here at Camp Blanding, of course, this is the main site for Florida's National Guard. It's important that its security be maintained. We want to prevent encroaching development that could undermine that perimeter. This is a site that was used all the way back in World War II. It really does have a storied history. We want to maintain its upkeep, and this investment will really help meet both of those needs, and so we're really excited about it. The National Guard is always someone we call on and can depend on, and we want to make sure that this base is in good stead. So we're going to continue to do that. We do think that if you look around, particularly in Jacksonville and other parts of Northeast Florida, this will have, of course, benefits for the broader region, but of course some of the money dedicated to the city is going to help buttress our efforts, and there's not very many places around the country that could credibly argue with Jacksonville and Northeast Florida or rival them in terms of military friendliness, and so we think this is a really critical part of the DNA of this part of the state, and we're happy to be able to continue to help. So we're going to continue. We did in the budget last year, last signing, we had $20 million for military members, family, retirees across a whole host of different programs. We also, for the first time, expanded our school choice offerings to basically streamline in military families who are active duty and have school-age children. So we're really happy to be able to do that. This is a huge economic impact to the state. Not just the active duty component, but as many of you know, the industrial component that goes into that. We have some phenomenal industrial components that are in Florida. There's been more that have moved from other parts of the country to Florida, and those are really good jobs. And they obviously play an important mission in maintaining America's security. So we're excited about doing that. I want to thank the legislature for their support over the years, and of course this year for these missions. And we're going to have some folks come up and say a few words about it. But I think that our legislature overwhelmingly hugely supportive of our military communities, our installations, our active duty component, and our veterans, and that's not true in every state, but it's definitely true here. So we're going to have Colonel Johnson come up and speak, Chief of Staff at the Florida National Guard, so come on up.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Well, welcome to Camp Blanding. Like the governor mentioned, we've been training the nation's warfighters here at Camp Blanding since 1939. And we feel we do a pretty good job, and these grants that the governor mentioned are going to allow us to continue to do that as we move forward. Reinvestments such as those provided by the Defense Infrastructure Grants and the Defense Reinvestment Grants will enable us to continue offering superior training opportunities and also strengthen our relationships with the local communities, especially here in Clay County, as Camp Blanding is located in Clay County. This year alone, Camp Blanding will receive, like the governor mentioned, almost $900,000, which we will use to maintain and modernize our facilities here at Camp Blanding, buffer the installation from incompatible land development. We're so grateful to Governor DeSantis and his continued support that Florida's military serve, and as well as our military communities, and for all that you do to ensure that Florida is the most military-friendly state in the nation. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we have Representative Bobby Payne.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for your military service as well. We'd be remiss if we didn't recognize that. Certainly your service as Congressman and your leadership as our Governor. Jamal and Dane, thank you for being here as well. Communities are being awarded about $1.6 million in funding through the Defense Infrastructure Grant Program, to include Clay County Development Authority at $300,000 to provide maintenance facilities and Camp Landing Joint Training Center. Additionally, communities are awarded about $800,000 in funding through the Defense Reinvestment Grant Program, to include Clay County Economic Development Corporation, $65,000. Develop a strategic site inventory program which would catalog shovel-ready sites as part of the development along the First Coast Express project in Clay County. Funding would also be used to create an interactive GIS mapping and analysis application for these sites. And finally, communities awarded $1 million for funding through development or through the Florida Defense Support Task Force Grant Program, to include Clay County at $500,000 defense grant, buffering Camp Landing from incompatible land development. Camp Landing trains over 350,000 Florida National Guard troops, active duty military, and law enforcement units. So, Governor and members, we're so happy that you're here today to announce those exciting programs. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Okay, we will have Jamal Sal, Enterprise, Florida.
Everyone, so you've heard the details, but the reason why that's important is because when the investment that the governor's made is showing the world that veterans, those who are reservists, those in the National Guard and active duty, know that they have a place to come home. In regard to training, this shows the entire world that we want to invest in our military sites, because Florida is a very military-friendly state. So from his time in Iraq and my time in Afghanistan, the Marine Corps, one thing that we learned before we deployed, we learned that training was key. We did immediate action drills, because every time you did the drills, every time you did that, that was for a reason. So when that time came in the war where something happened, you knew what to do. The soldiers on your left and right knew what to do. And this investment is an investment in the entire state, but also for the job that will come, and for the training, and for the veterans, and for the reservists and guardsmen who want to make Florida home. Thank you.
We have also with us Dane Eagle, Department of Economic Opportunity.
Well, I want to thank the governor for his focus on our military installations. As he just announced moments ago, $3.4 million across the state of Florida, and the bulk of that, nearly $2 million, is right here in Northeast Florida, with $800,000 at Camp Landing. And notably, you might sometimes see these grants coming from Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Military Affairs, but this is an economic development announcement today, which is why myself and Secretary Sowell are here to highlight how important this is to job creation in communities like this. Clay County, small but mighty, what they're doing for our military installations, our military veterans, and beyond is so important to this community in Northeast Florida as a whole. And I want to thank them for their commitment, but most importantly, the governor's commitment to highlighting Florida as one of the most, if not the most, and I challenge other states to try to claim it, the most military-friendly state in the nation. We'll continue to push forward and continue to propose these grants. Thank you to the legislature, as represented by the stellar Clay County delegation, for advocating for these funds. And thank you once again to our governor and our military for making this state so great. Appreciate your time today.
I also want to thank members of the Defense Support Task Force for what they've been doing. And I also want to thank both Dane and Jamal for recognizing when we do economic development, obviously the bread and butter is some company comes or some company expands and you do, and that's of course important, but there are also other ways where we can have development, and this is one way in terms of our military installations. And quite frankly, one of the best recruiting we're doing now is with law enforcement too. We're going to do $5,000 bonuses for all police who come from out of state or new folks to law enforcement who are within Florida, that's going to have a huge cascading effect as really making Florida the place to be for folks who are pursuing that profession. So I think from a veterans perspective, from a first responder perspective, and then just from an overall jobs perspective, we really are a great landing spot for a lot of folks. I think you're going to continue to see this place be a place that's going to attract veterans when they retire. And I think our state's going to be much better for it. So this is a good announcement today, and I think it's going to help the communities up here in Northeast Florida quite a bit. And this is just one of many things we're doing. We're going to continue to be there. We're looking forward to doing the next legislative session and probably being able to deliver some more, certainly on infrastructure. We will do that. And it's certainly easier going into those sessions when you have strong budget reserves and really have had strong economic performance, which we've had. So we want to keep that going. Okay, with that, I could take a couple questions.
Just to clarify, it'll be $3.4 million to the state of Florida, $2 million to Northeast Florida, and $800,000 to Kansas.
So it's going to be, right, so 3.4 million total, 865,000 for Clay County and Camp Blanding, 450,000 for the city of Jacksonville for the Eastmans, and then 90,000 for city of Jacksonville for shipbuilding, maintenance, and long-term planning. All right, well, we appreciate it very much. We look forward to coming back. As somebody who served on active duty at Naval Station Mayport and then did a lot of time at NAS Jacksonville as well, those are both installations that are close to my heart. And of course, now as Commander-in-Chief of the Florida National Guard, Camp Blanding is a very important part for me and for the state of Florida. And you hope to not have to deal with things. You want to just let things, nice, tranquil, but things happen. Storms happen, other things happen. And any time we're facing a situation like that, these National Guardsmen are the first ones that we call upon to be there for us. So just from me as governor, I just want to thank them for their service. We appreciate what you do. We understand there've been a lot asked of you, particularly over the last couple years, and hopefully we'll end up having a modest rest of the hurricane season, but we are prepared, and we always got to be prepared, and we know you guys will be there if duty calls. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. Yep.
You guys did well.
Good to see you. Thank you for